남다 주름 제제 사진된 된전 방면을 랭글을 시런이 된 나와 주근서로 도전도 간돌라 자제로 조감지지 송외 바절을 상보체별 주제 연근다 여단 주장 겨즈도 나위 생기는 점에로즈 감상 보면서 단도스를 내담절로 좀 맞아 대신 구신주 어디서 용서라만 줘버려져라 and 여고 공도 양도 라마다 점여주지 발라 롱교제 사다 람지인다 돌지 장기 공부하냐 뭐 Mm, uh, Firstly, I would like to request uh, everyone to generate your mind towards the bodhicitta and listen carefully towards the teachings of the Mundu. And uh, we went through last time impermanency and the death. So during that time, we had some kind of a way to train our mind towards the impermanence, as we went through the Kadamba way of mind training. And to in conclusion, if we combined the impermanency practice, it will come in a three form. That the first is that the impermanency is the fact. The death is the fact. So this is the first stages. And the second is it is uncertain. So there is no time as can predict when we will die. So this is the second. It is uncertain. And the third, in the end, is that in the end, there is nothing beneficial from the outer materialistic thing when the death of impermanence comes towards us. So it is the three stages. If we combine the practice of impermanency as inclusion. So the first is the fact of impermanency, there is a death. And second is it is uncertain. So the third is that when we die, there's nothing beneficial than the Dharma itself. So this three is the main kind of key point to be understood. Actually, those are the facts. And now we will continue on the karmic cause and effect. Third, there is no freedom at the time of death. In order to gain control over karma, I will give up misdeeds and always do virtuous act. Thinking those, I will examine myself every day. So these are the root texts. And we will continue with the commentary. Karmic cause and effect is the fundamental meaning of all the infinite Dharma teachings given by the Buddha. This topic is so incredibly profound and vast that until one has realized one taste, one will not fully compare it. Though ordinary beings cannot fully appreciate it, karmic cause and effect can be roughly summarized those virtue cause produce pleasant results and unvirtue cause produce painful results. So, uh, here we are in the cause and effect. Basically, this is the practice of having trust and being having strongly believing towards the liberation. So basically, is kind of refuge from that karmic topic. The refuge starts to appear, and also the in Buddhist we have many practices of disciplines in a form of vow, lay vow, monk vow, yeah. Those every vow comes from the topic of cause and effect. So therefore, we sometimes might wonder where the disciplines topic comes from, and where the vow, the concept of renunciation, monk, nun, monastery, solitude, everything, those kind of other topic. Where this comes from? Actually, this comes from the topic of karma. So everything is very much related on the fact of impermanency. So therefore, it is very, we have to see that everything is related it. And through this, we have to be more mindful on what kind of vow or discipline we are practicing. Whether it has the benefit or not, it all comes from the way of thinking of believing on cause and effect, especially on impermanency. Well, here it is clearly mentioned that the cause and effect topic is the fundamental kind of meaning of all the infinite Dharma teachings given by the Buddha. So it is very clearly mentioned. So, of course, uh, the idea of emptiness, the idea of, let's say, the understanding of Mahamudra, and whether it is any kind of, let's say, highest realization. This all comes from the topic of, or let's say, understanding towards the cause and effect, the karma. And the karma is something that we all should understand, and through understanding, we have to establish the path. So this is very important, and the path, what Buddha have shown by his life, let's say, story, it clearly shows that he really found the liberation from the basic understanding towards the cause and effect. Without proper understanding the roots or the cause of suffering, I don't think he will be finding the liberation. So therefore, let's say, if there is a time where there was no enlightened being who had discovered the liberation path, we all will be in confusion, although the cause and effect, exists in front of our eyes. We can feel physically, mentally, we get suffering and so on, attachment, hatred, jealousy, we feel all the time. And also there were we faced through 3 moments where at one point our mind becomes very active on positive way, and one on the negative, and one is in mutual, nothing good or bad. And we go through this, and we go through our, let's say, external activities as family, friends, kind of function, whatever there is. And yes, we age slowly by slowly, and physically and mentally we both somehow experience the life in many different ways. Let's say if we didn't really find out the cause of the suffering, of course we will understand that what through our happiness we will judge that this is a good thing, and through our self judgmental way we can have the idea of this is bad. But the really cause of suffering and ignorance for us, if no one has discovered yet, let's say by the enlightened being like a Buddha, then we are totally in a very confusion. We somehow feel peace, we somehow feel understands the meaning of impermanence when we go through many different kind of experiences. But we will not able to, really understand where the root of our, where this all confliction and dualistic coming from, if no one points out. In that way, if we think in that way, Buddha is very much kind of how to say, a person where we should respect and appreciate, because he have pointed out all the confusion we are going through. Yeah. So in that way, yes, we feel more appreciated towards the Buddha, because he has really went through many analyzing the causes of the mental suffering and the liberation in every way. And finally, he have showed the real path. And through this, what we can see that he understood those through the basis of cause and effect. So in that way, cause and effect is something that we should, you know, kind of, uh, we should be aware those topics, and not only just, being awakened from those reality, but also to have a really sincerely belief that is true what have shown, what Buddha have shown. So, so all the teachings of a Buddha very much based on the cause and effect, and that is why all the Buddhist practitioner, especially during the Mundro, we should have a strong, let's say, foundation of understanding that there is a path, there is a liberation, that is guaranteed because somebody went through this path and achieved something, and that is very much can be achievable by everyone. So in that way, we have started to gain trust. So the main purpose of practicing cause and effect is to have trust that there is a liberation in the cause and effect. So we shall continue, and it is clearly said there are a cause and effect in the way of virtue and non-virtue as well. And if you continue, there are the cause and result of samsara, and there are the cause and result of liberations. As for the first of these two, in samsara, the root of suffering comes down to accumulating negative acts. So it is very much clearly mentioned that the cause of samsara comes down by accumulating by negative acts. Of course, there are many participant people right here, and those who are not very much aware, some maybe new to Buddhist, especially towards Ngondro. So here in this torch of certainty, you will get many kind of clarity of cause and effect on our actions, where the suffering comes from, where the negative comes from. The liberation comes from, and in that way, it will be very much beneficial that if one can reflect by through experience. Yeah. And that comes down to the afflictions. And those come down to the ignorance of cherishing a self. Ignorance, the delusion that is the root of all affliction, is the obscure darkness of not knowing where the samsara comes from, what its nature is, how karmic cause and effect benefit and harm us, and so forth. It is that fleeting thought that we cannot identify something. So, which, basically describes the ignorance. So, in Buddhist, we have very, how to say, strange way of describing the suffering. Of course, it will be strange towards those who are not Buddhists. And of course, for the Buddhists, it is also strange when they, uh, put those categories. In Buddhist, suffering is not only an emotional thing, but also in Buddhist, ignorance itself described as a suffering. So, so here, yeah, we have to understand why the ignorance itself is suffering. And because normally, when we are ignorant, we don't kind of, let's say, feel physical suffer or mental in some individual. But actually, in Buddhist, when it says impermanence itself is suffering, ignorance itself is suffering. So what does it mean? If the impermanence is suffering, if the ignorance is suffering, then of course our life is full of suffering. So where the topic coming from when they say the impermanence is suffering and the let's say ignorance is suffering. So as I mentioned earlier, that in Buddhist, suffering doesn't have to be a physical kind of emotional harm. It is suffering it is the form of suffering when the enlightened person sees. Yeah. Let's say we are dreaming. When we are sleeping, we are dreaming that we are in, let's say there is a poor guy and he's sleeping and dreaming that he's in, luxury house and he's being the richest person in the world. And he has, everything. And he's believing in it while he's sleeping. And there's a person who is just besides him who is still awake and knows that he is dreaming that. And he will be feeling funny towards him that, wow, he is just, dreaming those fake things. This is not even a true thing. He's just, imagining for a very moment. When he wake up, then, he will come to reality. And it is just a matter of moment that he will realize that everything just falls away. Everything comes to a part where he will wake up as a poor guy again. So in that way, although the person himself doesn't know, although the person is enjoying, but the moment of, actual truth appear, then he will see that he is just, being ignorant. And then he will start to see that he was just dreaming. And this is somehow, shows that an ignorance, a dualistic mind can really, when the cause and condition appear, everything will seem as just a falling, let's say, dream. So in that way, we can see that, yeah, the ignorance itself is suffering. So we will not know that until we become enlightened. So in that way, the impermanence is suffering. And this is why in Buddhist, the life, let's say, when we say the life of human is suffering, because within the, let's say, the wheel of samsara, there's a human, how to say, realm. So it is considered as the suffering. Because, as I mentioned earlier, that until we are enlightened, we would not really know that where and what we are believing in, and we what kind of uh, kind of let's say we will not really able to permanently get whatever we want. So the reality always awakens when we become enlightened. So in that way, we will see as the life of, let's say, the ignorant mind is suffering. And so on, we will continue. It is that fleeting thought that we cannot identify something, as if we were imagining a place we had never visited, even if a guru explains it or we come to an intellectual understanding, thought, study, and contemplations. So, well, now this really kind of describes what is the suffering. I mean, what is the actual suffering, uh, which is the ignorance. So the ignorant mind is basically describing. So when we see or feel that we cannot identify truly, and we become in a capture of a moment where we, we are just hanging and also cannot able to hold on the salvations. So in that way, we are actually being ignorant. So when a master, so when a master, let's say, a Zawi Lama, let's say a root guru, comes and try to point the affliction of our mind and just directly, like a pointing by the finger, this is what you have, you know, this is the liberation what we are looking for, so forth. And you don't have to really seek liberation other than that affliction. Just don't go beyond, don't go, out or in, just there. That is the liberation. Just be aware what it is and just see, and don't engage in the dualistic imaginary. So in that way, we finally sees that uh, we neither have to seek outside or inside. It is just there, the liberation, the confusion, the confliction of not understanding what it is. That is the fact that we see or imagine ignorance it is. So anyway, so like that. And we continue. Because of this, we grasp at the lack of me, being me. Due to that, we develop many wrong views, such as doubt about the true meaning, desire based on our own body's position, and so forth arises. And because of that, pride, envy, and stinginess also occur hatred arise based on the other, and from that comes anger, continuous hate, and so forth. Without those affliction and three poison, it is impossible to accumulate karma, and without karma, it's the result does not cure. So we must do all we can to eliminate those root of wandering samsara. Now here so in here it's basically talking about how the idea of the three poisons appear, and through this how we try to how to say completing an action. It is very much related with the 12 connections. The 12 connection where we can find in the wheel of samsara. So in the very beginning, we have the name Marikpa. So basically, Marikpa is called it ignorance, right?
Yes, Rinpoche, ignorance, fundamental ignorance.
Yes, fundamental ignorance. So within the 12 stages, the very first fundamental ignorance is the very how to settle ignorance. As before I mentioned that ignorance itself is suffering. And through the ignorance, through the ignorance, with the second step, the mind, continues to grasp and separation. The mind, to the activity of combining and separations, which can relate, let's say, wantingness and the opposite of wanting, let's say,
Rejection.
rejections. Yeah. Then through this action, the consciousness started to, how to say, build up the idea of consciousness. And through the consciousness, let's say, now that what I mentioned is basically describing the mind itself. When this mind started to take rebirth in, let's say, when a male and female comes to a union, they started to do the action of rejecting and moving, grasping. And through this, and slowly, somehow, let's say the grasping itself is attachment. So when it attach towards the human form and dissolves within the form of, let's say, the woman's egg, then slowly, the name, which is called the form of the name of a human, starts to appear the stage. Then slowly, the wangbonga, what do you call wangbo?
Sense faculty.
The sense started to, through that, then the sense started to do their creations. And slowly that we started to, from there, And then we have the more solid form of grasping and rejection. And from there, slowly, the mind's covered by the solid inflections, and so on and so on. From there, the anger, jealousy, and those starts to perform, start to react. And it is not only by the mentality movement, but it supports by the physical reactions. And through that, we accomplish full actions of, let's say, negativity or positivity, what kind of act it is. We try to complete the full action. And that action, the result of that actions now experience habit. And that slowly move on and continues at the same way how it goes from the start. And from there, then the karma started to become a very solid form. And there, so then, yes, the karma of positive, the virtue, the non-virtue, it comes slowly by the process. It is not like, comes through just like a snapping. The karma is a process from a very long journey. So it is clearly mentioned that without those affliction, the three poisons, it is impossible to accumulate karma. So karma is basically a solid kind of form of, let's say, kind of a habit or a kind of a path which the mind created. Its result does not occur so we must do all we can to eliminate those roots of wandering of in samsara. So, as I mentioned earlier, so that's the basic explanation on this. To summarize samsara actions, numerous act, which are included within the 10 non-virtue, lead to the rebirth in the three lower realms. Numerous actions, virtues such as generosity that are not accompanied by the intention to achieve nirvana, lead to rebirth in high realms as God or human. Unmoving karma, dhyana, meditation that involves clinging, leads to rebirth to the form of formless realms. And yeah, so in general, in Buddhist, every existence of a being included in three category, let's say three stages. One is Dukam, Sukham, Sumekam. So do you know in English?
The world of desire, the form realm, and the formless realm.
So basically there are three, form and formless and desire. So, and also the most of the six realms are considered of the desire realms. So, so this mainly describes on that. So when we do virtue, as which is basically a process of the mind towards the positive, on the goodness, then that somehow leads the reincarnation to reborn in the on the less suffering realm, which considered as the God realms and also the human realm. And somehow, well, the meditative kind of uh, let's say it is mentioned that meditation that involves clinging. Uh, so, which is basically when the mind is too much attached towards the calmness of the comfort zone, and when some, when we meditate, some calms their mind and clings toward the comfort zone, clinging towards the comfort zone. And there is a kind of meditation where uh, the mind doesn't cling to the comfort, but just rather than, meditates on the nothingness, and the mind becomes too much separation with the comfort and so on, everything. So when the mind is too much habit towards clinging on the comfort, uh, that is well, the mind is too much clinging to the comfort, and when the person just pass away, somehow the mind managed to be in a realms where there's a form of s- a relying state, but it doesn't involve very much towards the uh, kind of a dualistic kind of conception. And there's a mind when they pass away from this life, and because of strong, how to say, the habit of non not based the mind towards anything, so somehow the mind becomes a formless and they remain on a certain state. So it's like a reincarnated in a certain different state as well. So these are kind of uh, kind of, let's say, uh, information, what kind of act leads us to a certain state, what kind of, each action have their own result. So in that way, we can really understand that. So where we will be reincarnated if we have this kind of actions. So this is kind of guideline. So we continue. In brief, until the imprints of the thoughts have been exhausted, we will continue to accumulate karma, and due to that, it will be impossible to stop the confused perception of samsara. Those fools have meditated on false or emptiness and say, I don't need to pay attention to the action and result. I have realized that the nature of mind are the majority of the teachings. There are 10 virtue action. There are 3 non-virtue of the body. So yeah, basically, the earlier mentions that mm, everything depends on the mind itself, and when the mind stop on the movement of grasping and rejecting and so forth, there will be no result of uh, afflictions and samsara and so forth. So the advice is that uh, even though no matter how much we meditate, we have to very much uh, be careful on our own actions, because cause and conditions, cause and effect plays a big role. Even an enlightened being, no matter how much uh, they are highly realized, still they have to stand up on the ground of cause and effect. There is a saying that, the bird, no matter how strong the feather he or she has, no matter how high she flew or he flew, in the end, you have to, stick down their feet on the earth. And no matter how much the airplane flies up, somehow it has to come down. And in the same way, no matter how much realized meditator he is, still he have to come down on the earth and follow cause and effect. In that way, cause and effect is very, very basic foundation where we have to mindful and follow uh, the practices of disciplines. So let's say the first Sangha in Buddhist appear in the Varanasi, one of the, let's say, the third importance phases of Buddhists. The first is the birth, Lumbini. The second is the enlightened place where the Bodh Gaya. And the third is where he taught the first Four Noble Truth in Varanasi. And the last where he passed away in Kushinagar. So the first teaching he have given was the Four Noble Truth. And the Four Noble Truth was basically cause and effect karmic teaching. And then, so then from there, mm, he started to, show the teaching of Vinaya, which is actually disciplined. So discipline coming from cause and effect. Now, after knowing what is should be done, one should not be done, then now Buddha have making a rule that one should promise ourselves, our mind, that we should not, continue this cause and effect, what we should abandon. In that way, the concept of the idea of the vow, starts to appear. Okay, so we will continue. There are 10 unvirtue actions. There are 3 non-virtue of the body. So within the 10 non-unvirtue actions, it is, divided by the body, speech, and mind. The first taking life is killing anything intentionally, even something as small as an ant or beetle, since there is no big or small when it comes to life. Yeah. And stealing is taking others' possession cruelly without them being given. The third sexual misconduct is engaging in sexual activity in the 4 wrong manners with the wrong object. Those who have vows and another partner and so forth at the wrong time with pregnant women, the sick or nourishing mother at the wrong places near the guru and and the wrong face. There are 4 non-virtue of speech: lying and consciously saying something untrue. Devising speech is saying disturbing things that are basis for discord. Harsh speech is speaking of others' defects to strike a nerve, such as calling them thief or cripple. Idle chatter is the talking about war, business or women, thinking, dancing, playing, and so forth. There are 3 non-virtue of mind: continuous instinct, thinking if only I had that about another person without false reputation and so forth. Or malice is being displaced that someone else has happiness of wealth, wrong view, disbelieving in the past and future lives, karmic cause and effect, the qualities of the three jewels, and so forth. Uh, so I don't have to explain on this, on the 10 non-virtue. It is very much clear, so we will continue. And please don't mind that for me, reading English is very challenging. And for me, it's like giving a full examination. And okay, we still continue. The full deepening of engaging in this 10 non-virtue and related action is rebirth in the lower realms. Even if you are born human, they will produce much suffering, such as short life due to killing, being poor due to stealing, and so forth. Those never commit them, prevent others from doing them, and regret those you have done. So it is very much clear. I will continue. The opposite of non-virtue action are the 10 virtue action, refraining from killing and saving lives, and not taking what is not given from the other, being generous with your own food and wealth, maintaining discipline without hypocrisy, speaking truthfully. When it comes to speaking truthfully, even though you are speaking truthfully, you should not be harm others. So we should be also be aware of it. Sometimes a truthful action is, may harm the society, may harm one person's life. So, of course, truthful is a virtue depending on the circumstances. So, there is a saying that because it is very tricky that some people take the word seriously, and then there is a saying that a monk was crossing uh, by village, and suddenly he saw a deer passing by, and he continues walking forward, and then he saw a hunter, and hunter asked him, "Did you saw a deer?" If he continues to say the truth, where the deer, where the direction of deer went, although he have said the truth, but somehow it did manage to kill a being. So in that condition, what is important? The truth is more valuable, or the life of saving one deer is more valuable. So in that case, we have to think more. According to Mahayana, the mind itself, depends on the surroundings. So in that way, saving a life is more important than saying the truth. So, well, it depends on individual. So, yeah. So anyway, we have to act accordingly. Okay. Reconciling those divided by slander, speaking gently, speaking purposely, rejoicing in the prosperity of others, always maintaining an altruistic attitude towards others. Not criticizing the qualities of any religion or philosophy you hear about, and believing the Buddhist words. Do those as much as you are able. Get others to do them as well. Rejoice in those that have been done. The result will be rebirth in the higher realms with a long life and so forth. There are many benefits. So this is very much clear. Spending time doing various natural actions such as walking, standing, sleeping, and sitting, which are neither virtue and non-virtuous, does not depend into good or bad experience, but it pointlessly wastes this human life. Those do not fall under the influence of distraction and laziness, and spend your time only practicing virtue and mindfulness and awareness. Abstain from carelessly committing even those side is wrong. Remember that even a small amount of poison can be fatal. Likewise, do not disagree even the slightest virtue. Remember that gathering barley grain will fail at best. So, mhm. So basically, even though a small non-virtue act, we should not accomplish uh, the actions. So even though the smallest virtue, if one can accumulate, it is very much needed. So basically, every individual acts act of the mind should be done accordingly through awareness. And this is the main advices which are given here. And the practice of, let's say, of the cause and effect on this particular uh, meditation, where we have to gain the full trust towards the Buddha, towards the Dharma, towards the Sangha. And if you see lack of feeling less relying towards the Buddha, towards the Dharma and the Sangha, and also to the virtuous acts and so on, that when you feel less on that, interested, that means that you are now not improving. The more your mind, take interest towards uh, being very much concerned toward every action to help beings and collecting on the virtuous part, that is where you have to understand that your practices on the cause and effect is improving. So here we will stop, and we will continue the rest tomorrow. Gedian Roa Amalia Dorjes and Dade Tashi Jove Chemeche Nange Lamne Dorjen Ro Sanje Niche Komban Soche Mo Gewa Deye Nyoto Chacha Chimbur Tuju Roa Jijan Malepa Deye Sala Kepa Sho Sanje Kusum Nipe Chenap Chunyi Minjuru Dembe Chenap Ta Kende Meche Dembe Chedra Mo Wamelam Dropa Sho